Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is, of course, the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel, and I thank you all for being here, wherever you may be, and of course, however you may be listening. This is the final regular season game preview. I can't even believe that we're already here. Uh, as time goes on, and I get deeper and deeper and it prolongs the how long I've been making content for. It seems to kind of be going by quicker. The seasons go by quicker. They just kind of speed up every single year. It's absolutely crazy. Um, but this should be an interesting game. I would say that this game, just kind of my immediate thoughts coming into this is that this is going to be, at least on paper, and evaluating these two teams' records, the most evenly matched game that we have seen in the Heroes Trophy or this rivalry that we've seen in, quite a while, I would say. Now, there has been years where certainly, and I guarantee you, Nebraska fans would say this themselves, where Nebraska has had at least the same, if not a little bit more talent than Iowa. And I'm sure to some degree that might be true, especially if you really just look at the recruiting rankings. Nebraska always seems to recruit decently well. For certain stretches, they were the lone Big Ten West team to. It would kind of go back and forth between them, Wisconsin, and Iowa, but it just seemed no matter, and I commented on this a few years back, no matter how poorly Nebraska did, they would always recruit at least the same as Iowa and Wisconsin, if not better. So there's certainly, if you look at the recruiting rankings, talent on the roster. Now, there most assuredly is talent, but there is a difference between landing, talent out of high school and then developing it and bringing that talent forward to what they can and should become, which, of course, Iowa has done a great job of doing that, probably even more so, taking them past what many people expected for them if you look at their rankings and the offers that they have coming out of high school. But even with that said, I think Iowa kind of gets a bad rap for their recruiting. They're not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but nonetheless, even be that as it may, they do absolutely take walk-ons, guys that are two-star recruits, three-star late pickups where, nobody knew about them. And then, Iowa found them either in the state of Michigan or the state of Illinois or in their backyard in the state of Iowa, and they turn them into an NFL draft prospect. So, but like I said, this game I think is going to be the most evenly matched game. It's very interesting. I actually, at my gym, know quite a few Nebraska fans, which obviously you guys know I don't live in the state of Iowa, which is interesting. So I always like talking with them. They're good guys, and they seem to have tremendous respect for the University of Iowa and Kirk Ferentz, which is good to know. Coming from an Iowa fan's perspective, and I think that this can really be said for both teams. I think Iowa was a dark horse to make the college football playoff. Nebraska probably was for some media experts or quote unquote experts. But Iowa, based on their in-season performance, kind of carried that a little bit further into the season. I would say that Iowa had a college football playoff, long shot or possibility as late as their game against USC. I would even say, to many people's surprise, that they actually even still had a shot to make the college football playoff after their loss to Oregon, based on them only dropping one spot in the college football playoff rankings to 21 from 20. Um, so even with that said, for both of these teams, no matter how they got here, no matter what the expectations were, before the season, during the season, which, as I was getting to, I think Iowa maybe had a little bit more expectations. Both of them can absolutely finish their season on a high note, albeit as an Iowa fan, if Iowa is able to win this game, which will definitely be very, very difficult to do, this is going to be, and they finish 8-4. This is definitely going to go down as the season that could have been. And I have been saying that for weeks now. It's kind of cringe now for me. I kind of feel cringe saying it, but it's the truth. If you look at the losses that they had and how they went down, this could have been a spectacular, great season, where or dare I say, historic season for the Iowa Hawkeyes, who have still yet to make the college football playoff. So, what I'm getting at is that even if both of these two teams can, they have something to play for in putting a stamp to their season, for Iowa, coming from an Iowa fan's perspective, if you're a Nebraska fan watching this, obviously this is coming from an Iowa fan's perspective. I think it's going to be a bittersweet type situation where, on one hand, yes, it's awesome that they beat a rival in Nebraska. Not that they haven't done that before, but it's always good to beat a rival. And this year, a decent team on the football field, if you look at the results. But on the other, you can't help but look at what could have been had they been able to win one or two of these other games that they were absolutely in, and probably could have, you can make the case, should have won at least two of those games. So, but for Nebraska, I think if they can win this game, it's going to give them a ton of momentum going into the offseason. I know there's the speculation with Matt Rule. I was just reading some information. I don't think that Matt Rule is the front runner for the position, for the Penn State job. I know they did, and that it's important to note that they did just come. They're coming into this game, off of a blowout loss against Penn State. I did address the Matt Rule and Penn State situation. When James Franklin was first fired. Quite frankly, I think the Nebraska job is in a lot of ways just as good as the Penn State job. In some ways, slightly better. I would still err on Penn State being the better job. But, and obviously, there's some jobs that coaches just can't pass up because of their connection to, it being their home state, their home, maybe it's their alma mater. I mean, so on and so on. But even still, I address that. I don't, way back when, I wasn't sure that job would be enough to get Matt Rule to leave Nebraska. And I still believe that. But even still, I don't even know that Penn State sees him as the number one, candidate. So there's still a ton of speculation out there. That's an interesting tidbit coming into this game. But just assuming that Matt Rule is going to return to Nebraska next year, if they are able to get this victory, it will absolutely give them a good amount of momentum. Not as much as beating a ranked team or, a top 15 team, although Iowa has been ranked at various points this season. But it would still give them a ton of momentum. All right, guys, let's take a look at the ESPN matchup profile here. According to this article by Newsweek, from John Stauber, Georgia Tech head coach Brent Key is actually the current front runner to get the Nittany Lions head coaching position. There was a former player, their leading wide receiver, I forget his name, Eber maybe, who was interviewed before the game against Nebraska. So very interesting to see what happens there. But Before we get to this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much who have supported me this year and, stuck it out. Thank you guys, especially those of you guys who have supported me for the past couple of years. The channel continues to grow. We're almost at 1,500 subscribers. I just appreciate it. You guys know I do. I've said across multiple of my videos how thankful I am for you guys' support. I don't take it for granted. Um, this is something that I do for fun. It's not my day job. I'm a huge Iowa fan, and so I like having this community where we can discuss Iowa sports and where you guys can hear it from a unique Iowa fan perspective. Because I think what happens is there's a lot of programs that have just kind of these news type guys or these, media members that give their takes on Iowa sports, and it's always going to be biased and not always 100% regarding the truth in kind of their takes and what they decide to say because they want to maintain relationships. So be that as it may, I think I provide a unique perspective, and I thank you guys for supporting me and sticking with me. ESPN gives Iowa a 60.3% chance to win this game and Nebraska a 40% chance to win if we round up. And that's not really surprising. If you look at the SP Plus rankings, Iowa, I think, is actually 15th. Maybe they went down after their game against Michigan State ever so slightly. The ESPN Football Power Index has Iowa as a top 25 team. So this number is not surprising. I thought it would be a little bit closer considering this game is at Nebraska and it's on the road for Iowa. But so here is the SP Plus ratings in a single sentence. It's a tempo and opponent adjusted measure of college football efficiency that was originally created for Football Outsiders. It's intended to be predictive and forward facing. Iowa is ranked 21st with the let's look, seventh best defense in the country, or according to this rating, and the 59th best defense, or excuse me, offense. 59, which is actually surprising. I'm surprised that it's 59th. But then again, they do run the football really well and control the tempo of the game. Nebraska comes in at 39th with the 58th best offense and the 32nd best defense. So, like I said, it's not super surprising, but still. Let's see here. Let's get moving back. Coming back to this, Iowa comes into this. The spread is 5.5 points, with the over under being 38.5. They opened as 4.5 point favorites. With the under 38.5 being whatever that is. I'm not super familiar with what the betting numbers are. Here are the statistical leaders. Dylan Raiola has 2,000 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 INTs, which is not too bad. Not too bad at all. If Iowa had a passer that had these numbers, that it would be excellent. Mark Gronowski, as you guys can see, 1,363 passing yards, 7 touchdowns to 6 INTs. Kamari Moulton with 690 rush yards. Emmett Johnson here, who Iowa did recruit. I believe he's out of the state of Minnesota, but he was a late signee for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. He's ended up having a really good career. I think he was probably overlooked because he went to a smaller high school. I believe it was a smaller Christian high school. Um, Obviously things have worked out for Iowa with Caleb Johnson. Their running back room is super healthy and, has plenty of pieces in there. But still, for what it's worth, Iowa did have a look at him, and ultimately they went in a different direction and did not offer Emmett Johnson. So Iowa actually went with Jazzy Patterson in that recruiting class, who, obviously Jazzy hasn't had a season where he's rushed for 1,234 yards, but he has been very productive for Iowa and been a solid contributor, and still has one more year of eligibility remaining out of Deerfield Beach. So going in, like I said, Iowa's run game the past 2 years has been phenomenal. And obviously some of that is the offensive line, if not a lot of it. And I believe it'll be just as good next year. Receiving yards, and Hunter has 611 compared to 260 for Jacob Gill. Ethan Herkett has 6 sacks. Max Llewellyn also has 6 sacks. So there's, each of the defensive ends for Iowa have shown out this year and done exactly what I expected and anticipated. Um, Waneri, who I believe, no, I'm thinking of somebody else. He has 2.5 sacks. Carson Shire, 73 tackles. Jay Wright, 74. Here are the last 5 games for each team. You guys can see here Iowa had the 2 ranked losses, one at home, one on the road. Both games they absolutely could have won, and probably definitely should have won the USC game. And they defeated Michigan State 20-17. We look at Nebraska here. They got shellacked on the road against Penn State 37-10. They defeated UCLA on the road. They lost to USC in similar fashion, 21-17. They defeated Northwestern, and they lost to Minnesota on the road, 24-6. But as you guys can see here, Dylan Raiola is out. He didn't even play against Penn State. TJ Latleaf played, and he was 21 of 37. Looks like they trusted him enough, having him throw the football 37 times, albeit obviously they were down by a decent margin at halftime, but still. And he did run the football 10 times for 15 yards. Emmett Johnson did run the football 19 times for 103 yards. So, um, as for the depth chart, not really much different there from what you guys, Iowa fans, have seen. Here it is. You guys can check it out. I think, everything really is the same um, as it's been all season long. Iowa virtually has everybody healthy. One question I've had is what has happened to Seth Anderson. I don't know what has happened to Seth Anderson. Um, he's listed on the depth chart, but it looks like the top receivers Iowa has been going to has been Sam Phillips, Reese Vanderzee, Dayton Howard, and Caden Weegan and Jacob Gill. Those 5. So Jacob Gill, Caden Weegan, Reese Vanderzee, Dayton Howard, and Sam Phillips, if I didn't already say him. Wait, let's go with the small guys. Jacob Gill, Sam Phillips, Caden Weegan, and then Dayton Howard and Reese Vandersea, which I'm okay with. Some of the, you know, younger guys need to start getting more snaps, as Iowa actually is going to be losing quite a substantial amount of experience in their wide receiver group. I mean, this was the year that they by far had the most experience that they've had in a long time at the wide receiver position. And unless they go out into the portal and land 1 to 2 guys that have solid college experience, um, the Iowa players coming back next year, really, it's really going to be only Reese Vanderzee that has seen a lot of time. Now, if you can, as Iowa showed in the past, have 2 to 3 solid guys that are really accountable. There was the year that Iowa had or the couple of years Iowa had Brandon Smith, Amir Smith Marset, and then I think they had I think it was Nick Easley, um, maybe Charlie Jones. It could have been Tyrone Tracy. I'm blanking on who the third receiver was. I think it was Nick Easley. Um, they were more than productive. And if you look at the passing numbers, it is far better than what it is now. So, you can do just as much, if not more, with just 3 really solid guys than you can with 5 to 6 average to below average guys. So, um, but anyways, all right, guys, it is prediction time. This is an interesting game. It's I would have been a lot worried about this game if Dylan Raiola was available for this game. I think Nebraska is probably a bit deflated. Um, you know, but like I said, there's still a lot to play for. If they could win 8 games, I know by Nebraska fan standards, historically, it's not the end all be all. But if they could get to 8 wins and um, push Iowa to a 7-5 season, that would be awesome for them, and understandably so. Um, but be that as it may, it being at home is obviously an advantage for Nebraska. I do think that Iowa has the better team. If you look at the stats, if you look at the results of the game to game, who Iowa lost to and who they beat, and how they were able to compete in those games. Not that Nebraska did, poorly in every single one of those games, but I do think Iowa has the edge there. And again, not having Dylan Raiola is a big deal. The other aspect is that Nebraska has obviously struggled, and if you look at just one search of Nebraska football, will show you that Nebraska has struggled playing, getting out physicality. When they play teams that are more physical than them, they struggle. And so playing a team like Iowa, that spells problems. Iowa is one of the most physical teams in the entire Big Ten and the entire country. Um, but I can't lie to you guys. The fact that Iowa still hasn't really developed a passing offense, the fact that they tend to make this game closer than they need to, the fact that they tend to overthink it and just play uber conservatively and just try to barely escape out with a win. More often than not, especially in this game, it has worked in Iowa's favor. But I'm just saying, because that is historically the case, even if all the things point to Iowa being the better team and the team that should win, um, you know, I don't want to say substantially, but without a ton of drama, shall we put it, um, I am still concerned about this game. I am. So, but like I said, in the end, I do think Iowa has the better football team. I think that they will be more physical. I think Gronowski will be able to wear down this Cornhusker defense along with the Iowa run game. I'm really hopeful that maybe Gronowski is able to take what he was able to do in the fourth quarter and just really, just trust his talent. That's the one thing that we heard from Kirk Ferentz when discussing him, is that he overthinks things. He, really gets himself too hyped up, and that kind of has not kind of, it has bore itself out this year, where he gets himself too rattled and too worked up, and he doesn't make the throws that he should be making. And it's kind of been a very average passing season, if not below average. It's actually statistically been worse than last year. Um, but who knows? Maybe he's able to take a step forward from the fourth quarter of this Michigan State game, and start finding some of these targets. The good news is it looks like Iowa has settled into a certain group of wide receivers. And I'd love to see Dayton Howard and Reese Vanderzee continue to develop. But in the end, this game is going to be won by Iowa's defense and their ability to run the football, maybe get some special teams help from Caden Weegan and Drew Stevens. I know people say, well, I don't even know why they kick it to Caden Weegan. I don't even know, and the answer is, if a team does their job, you should still kick to a player. Like, it is much better to boom a kick and pin them, back there, than it is to just kick it out of bounds. just because you're so afraid. I mean, you're basically, telling the team that you don't believe you can stop him. Your coverage is so poor that you can't stop him. So, but still, we'll see if they kick to him, but that's how Iowa's going to win this game. That's how they won. They've won all year long. I'm going to pick Iowa to win this game 24-17. I think it's going to be closer than it needs to be. Nebraska is going to play hard. I think Iowa's physicality wins out in the end, their ability to run the football, Mark Gronowski's ability to run the football. Iowa makes just enough passes and they get the job done. Iowa was able to force this new quarterback into some mistakes. And who knows, maybe Caden Weegan takes one to the house. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share. You guys know the drill. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow and facts over feelings because your feelings just don't matter. I love you, Hawk fans. Hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. I will see you guys in the post-game show after the Iowa versus Nebraska game, Heroes game. Hopefully it goes well. And, stay safe out there. Eat all the food that you can, make it count. Just wanted to see real quick before I end this how many sacks Max Llewellyn has here. 6. Ethan Hurkett and Max Llewellyn have 6. All right, guys. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye bye.